Okay, so we've now entered in our land use area for that pre-developed basin. And so what we're going to need to do next is be able to tell the model that when the scenario runs, this is the runoff that we want to analyze from our pre-developed scenario. So what we would do here, we're going to go to the basin here, we're going to right click, and we're going to select connect to point of compliance. And this tells the model to begin measuring the runoff through all the years and time series that we're going to run the model for. So if we left click connect to point of compliance, we can see the surface interflow or surface flow, interflow, and then groundwater is unchecked. Unless there's some sort of significant groundwater measurement, and for only about 11 acres of land, there's not going to be. So we're going to have surface flow and interflow that tells the model to measure those, and we're going to connect by left clicking connect. You can see the little 1 down here with this little analysis box here in the lower right corner of the element. That shows that that element is connected to the point of compliance. You can actually add many point of compliances, as many as you want. You're just going to click the add button here. We don't need that. That's not necessary right now, but just to show you that you can. But this is going to be the point of analysis here that we're going to compare to the mitigated scenario later to show how to meet that flow duration standard. So now that it's connected to the point of compliance, we can actually run this scenario. So when we go to run the scenario here, what it's doing is it's telling the model that it's taking all this land use information that we've inputted, and then it's creating an HSPF input file that is then being ran and read by the program. And that's all done for you. And if you've ever seen an HSPF input file, it's not very pretty. It's very difficult to do. And that's what sort of the beauty is of the software that we've prepared is you enter in all this information in the interface, and then the program's able to, in the background, develop that HSPF input file and then run the scenario for all the time steps that you have selected. So if we go to run scenario here, we can see the model will begin running in October 1968 and then run all the way through to the final date here. So we can see that this is done running here. And then next on our list is to build out this mitigate scenario. So we have the pre-developed runoff. If you went to the analysis tab and looked at point of compliance 1, you could see it. Let's just do that real quick here. So it wants me to run the mitigate scenario first. Okay, so we'll build out the mitigate scenario. We're going to drop another basin in. Just as we did before, the naming convention, it doesn't really matter. It's just for nomenclature and tracking purposes here. So if I typed in developed area, that's how it would show up in the report. So now I have developed area, and here's what we're going to enter in for our mitigated land use here. We're going to have 6.5 acres, and this is all taken from the scenario that we did in the PowerPoint earlier, but now we're doing it in the modeling situation here. So we have 6.5 acres of de-soil urban landscape with no irrigation. So de-soil urban landscape, no irrigation. That looks like this one right here. And then we want that to be moderately sloped. So we're going to have 6.5 acres of that right there. 1 acre of de-soil urban landscape with irrigation. So de-urban, and then I believe that is flat, or that is a moderate slope. So 1 acre there. 1 acre of just impervious flat. And then 2.5 acres of impervious moderately sloped. So now we have our 11 acres of land use to match the 11 acres in our pre-developed. And a common problem people have is that they set up their project, they run it, they start putting in mitigation facilities, and they're like, something doesn't add up. I'm not getting the runoff I don't think I should have. Make sure to check that your land use area is the same for your pre-developed and mitigated scenario. And if it's not, you're not really going to get the correct results. So make sure that you're doing your accounting and that all your land use area is adding up. You can see the basin totals down here. Now, another question we often get is, well, does this all have to be in one basin? And the answer is no. You can put in different land use areas in different basins. However, it's just more economical this way to put it all into one basin here. So we have all the land use area now in this mitigate scenario here. So what we could do is connect this to the point of compliance. And this is just to show you. Connect this to the point of compliance run, and we could run the mitigate scenario, and I'll show you the runoff that is created from this scenario here. You can see start 1968 and it'll end in 2004-09. So the 2004 water year there. Okay, so now it's from the mitigated scenario. We go to point of compliance 1. It's going to compare that pre-developed runoff, that mitigated runoff, and then we can see if we're meeting the flow criteria. And obviously we're not meeting the flow criteria. So it tells you that it fails, right? Because we have no mitigation facility installed. So we're going to need to put in that mitigation facility to then meet that requirement, right? Because we added all this impervious area. Of course, the erosive flows are going to be exceeded in this case. So what we're actually going to need to do next is calculate the lower and upper HMP thresholds based on that pre-developed runoff.